For WorkSpan TV, I'm Ryan Johnson. Today I'm joined by Jim Hudner, Managing Director of Meyer & Partners. Jim's a 25-year compensation consultant. And today we're going to talk about conducting a compensation audit and why it's particularly important as we come out of this economic recession. Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
Jim, what are your clients telling you about the economic recovery and what are you seeing on the horizon?
Well, first of all, the types of challenges that companies are facing today vary certainly by industry. While most of them are seeing improved business conditions, they are very cautious about adding to staff and increasing payroll. So it's kind of a wait-and-see approach. We've seen some organizations that since the fall of 2008 till present time, they've really taken some drastic measures, whether it's wage freezes, wage cuts, layoffs, and so forth, the result of which is now, here we are in the summer of 2010, they're quite anxious about what their compensation programs are like, particularly for their high-performing employees. So it's really a pretty opportune time for a lot of these types of organizations to conduct kind of a full audit of their compensation programs to make sure that it's in sync, particularly within today's environment.
So talk about some of the first steps. If someone is interested in doing a compensation audit, what are some of the first things they want to be thinking about?
Some of the first things I want to do is, actually there are several steps that go into play, but basically falls into three phases. The first phase would be to conduct effectively an internal assessment. Organizations have gone through a lot of changes in the course of the last 18 to 24 months. Business strategies have changed, the markets have changed, so there's a lot of changes has occurred within these organizations, the result of which is their compensation programs need to be looked at. Part of that internal assessment also should include whether or not they spend some time with line managers, asking them about their compensation programs. A lot of our clients will work with line managers to get their input on strengths and weaknesses, which is good feedback, and in addition, those conversations can help with communications. The second phase of the audit would really be an external assessment, and really now, particularly at this point in time, since there has been so much change that's occurred in the last 18 to 24 months, compensation surveys, recent market research really almost provides almost a new baseline because there's a lot of uncertainty as to what's really happened in the last 18 to 24 months. So therefore, taking a hard critical look at compensation levels, pay practices, whether that affects incentive targets, equity grant awards, and participation would be something to be very healthy. And the third and final phase would really be to look at the compensation infrastructure and the way in which pay is delivered, ranging from the approach that's used to job titles, pay ranges, and so forth. As organizations change and evolve, they establish these infrastructures, but then often what they don't realize is they'll sometimes grow out of them, and it's time to make some changes. It's an opportune time to do that. So
what are some of the benefits that an organization can expect if they do an audit, particularly at this time as we're coming out of the recession?
Probably about three benefits. The first of which is just quite simply a revalidation of where they stand vis-a-vis the marketplace, not only in terms of compensation levels, how their salaries and incentive targets and total cash compare to the marketplace, but also how their pay practices compare to the marketplace. Secondly, an important piece will be, as I mentioned, given some of the changes that organizations have gone through, if they've had a significant shift in their strategic focus, or there's lots of mergers and acquisitions, integration issues, this is an opportune time to then be able to step back and take a look at the programs. And then lastly, another benefit is as the demographic of the workplace changes with these generational changes, later retirements, increased use of part-time contract workers, it's really an opportune time to kind of take a fresh look at your pay programs, and an audit really should be able to assess how the programs are working for those populations, but most importantly for your higher performers that you want to make sure you keep.
I think you just alluded to some of this, but what are some of the short-term or even long-term trends that you're seeing on the horizon for compensation programs?
I would expect to see certainly slower growth and salary increases over the course of the next few years, with a real emphasis on managing fixed costs, which then would translate into, secondly, greater use of variable pay. Both in terms of the participation levels among employees as well as the amounts that are provided. And this is just a continuing trend that's gone on for the last 15 to 20 years, but it might certainly accelerate over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. Also, probably more strategic use of equity, which we'd started to see with the expensing of options and institutional shareholder interest in the use of equity, but now we expect to see that even more so. And then lastly, a continued emphasis on just programs to make sure that they're retaining key talent. But the interesting thing will be is organizations will all face these same issues, but they all have different business models, different cultures, different people strategies, so the approaches that they're going to take are all going to be different.
Well, I want to thank you, Jim, for coming in today and talking with us about conducting a compensation audit. The name of your article is Repositioning Your Pay Programs for Recovery, and I should mention that is available to World at Work members on the World at Work website. Thank you, Jim Hudner, Managing Director of Pearl Meyer and Partners, and for WorkSpan TV, I'm Ryan Johnson.